This is the introduction to the class construct. The class construct lets us define classes, which are really just types. Syntactically, we have the class keyword followed by some identifier. And then we have a block. And this block must be terminated with a semicolon. And within this block, we have a few different sections. For now, we're only going to worry about the public section and the private section. These are keywords followed by the semicolon. And within these two sections, there can be a variety of declarations. And we'll get to what these can be. For right now, let's focus on the private section. And in the private section, what we are going to place here will be all of the properties or attributes or data members of the class that we're defining. So, for example, if I'm defining the point class, and I'll skip the public section, then in the private section, we simply declare that a point has an integer x and an integer y. And in fact, all of the properties, attributes, or data members for a class we're defining will appear in the private section. So if I wanted to define a student class, then in the private section, I would list all of the declarations for that student. So if the student needed to have a name, perhaps a major, a GPA, and total credits. Then I simply list those data members, attributes, or properties in the private section. So what you can do is maybe go back to some of the previous classes that we talked about, like date, time, complex, and write out the private section of some of those classes. So in these public and private sections, we've already seen that we can declare variables or other objects. So we can declare variables. We can also declare constants. We'll see how to do this a little bit later. And we can also declare methods. And as we know, methods are simply routines that manipulate the objects or some of the object's characteristics. And we'll see some of the examples. We'll postpone discussion of private constants and methods until later. Once we learn how to use public methods, then private methods will be pretty straightforward. And in the public section, we can also declare public variables, public constants, and public methods. Philosophically, we're not going to declare public variables because one of the things that you'll see that we're going to try to do is protect the private data that we're storing in an object. And if we have public variables, then we're really shortcutting any kind of protections that we can have. And you'll see that we're going to use these methods to make sure that the integrity of the information we're storing in our private data members is maintained. Public constants are okay because they can't be changed. And we'll spend most of our time talking about public methods. And as I said, these public methods will manipulate the information that we're storing in these private variables, these private data members.